Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello viewers. First of all, I thank to all my viewers who like and subscribe my channel, and I hope that in future you will also like and subscribe me. Now let's move to the topic. Today I am going to discuss about laws of learning which are presented by Edward Lee Thorndike. He was an American psychologist and he worked on comparative psychology. He presented the theory of connectionism. Edward Lee Thorndike, also called the father of modern educational psychology, because he provided a scientific base for it. He was a behaviorist, and according to him, behaviors can be learned through experiences, and he described a bond relationship between stimulus and response, which according to him is important for effective learning. Stimulus are those actions which cause some reactions, and reactions are the answers of these stimulus. For example, if a teacher asks questions in classroom, it means that he or she stimulate the children for effective learning, and children respond according to these stimulus. Now I describe the laws of learning. Thorndike presented these laws with the help of his theory of connectionism. He made some experiments with animals. For example, he made some experiments with a cat, and on the basis of these experiments, he presented the laws of learning. These laws are called primary laws, and they included law of readiness, law of exercise, and law of affect. First of all, I describe the law of readiness. Readiness is a mental preparedness which is because of pleasant feelings and positive affects, and it makes learning effective. It is also called law of action tendency because when there is preparatory adjustment, then an action tendency is aroused. Physical, mental, social, and emotional readiness is also important. It means that a child should be physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally mature, then he can get an effective learning. Maturation plays a vital role for learning. With maturation, a child started to learn. For example, at earlier stage of life, we do not walk or run, but we move on with physical maturation. Firstly, a child started crawling, then he walked with help of someone, and at last he walked independently. With physical maturation, he learned to walk and run. So for readiness, physical development and maturation is important. If the age of child is not according the schooling age, then physically he is not ready to learn. Mental development and maturation is also important. At birth, a person do not get degree of FA or BA, but everyone move on with mental maturation. If a child is not mentally mature, then he or she cannot understand a concept, and eventually he or she cannot show readiness to learning. Social development and maturation is also important. A child with positive social development and maturation can learn effectively. A child can learn in better way in cooperative learning, where all children work together for achieving a common goal. Emotional development is also important. A person gets social adjustment with getting maturation in feelings and senses. A child gets it with passage of time. So, physically, mentally, socially, and emotionally, maturation and development is important for effective learning. Conducive environment is also important, and it included physical domain and cognitive domain. Now I describe the educational implication of this law. Readiness is important for every walk in our life. Readiness is important for every work in our daily life. A person cannot learn without readiness. We respond to a stimulus at that time when we get ready. It is also a natural and psychological aspect that whenever a child is not get ready for acquiring knowledge, he or she cannot learn. If we force a child for learning just because of punishment or because of external aspect, then the acquiring knowledge is not permanent. Only that learning will be permanent, which is learned with happiness, readiness, and engagement. According to Hillgrade, teaching is a pleasant act and it can be pleasure at that time when a child is internally ready to acquire knowledge. In classroom, you have seen that teacher asks different questions to students because a teacher want to arouse their curiosity and a teacher also want to know their previous knowledge of the topic. In this way, children show their preparedness for learning. Teacher also use audio-visual aids for the readiness of child. Teacher use all these techniques for the motivation of children so that they acquire effective and permanent learning. Now I describe the second law, which is law of exercise. It is said that practice makes a man perfect, and this law included two laws, law of use and law of disuse. In law of use, it is said that repetition or practice of content and skill are strengthening the learning, while law of disuse describes that less repetition or practice or weaken the learning. It means that practice makes a bond relationship between stimulus and response, which has resulted in effective and permanent learning. Now I describe the educational implication of this law. If we use this law of exercise, then at one side our speed of learning increases and on the other side we acquire a permanent learning. For example, with the continuous practice of typing, at one side our speed of typing increases and on the other side we learn better and accurate learning. This law implies in learning and in daily life. A teacher reads out alphabets before children of the class. Teacher repeats these alphabets again and again. Then students also repeat these alphabets. So they are able to learn these alphabets effectively. It is said that if we done some work or activity only once, then it cannot stuck in our mind. At home, parents use language and repeat some actions before children. This exercise and repetition is helpful in understanding new knowledge. Teachers use so many techniques in the classroom for creating a permanent knowledge. For example, teachers use role play method, group discussion, project method, and question answer session for repetition and practice of the content. Now I describe the third law, which is law of effect. This law describes that consequences of an action will decide whether this action will be repeated or not. If an activity or purpose is pleasant and has positive result, then a person is naturally ready for that act. But an activity with negative result will show that in future it will not happen again. In our daily life, we make such efforts which provide our security and happiness of life. If our efforts are not fruitful, then we cannot continue such efforts. If students do not get hope for getting better position or to move in next class, then they cannot work hard or even taken the examination. In our daily life, if an employer do not get salary, then he or she cannot continue the work in future. All the workers continue their work for whole of month because they have hope to get salary. Thorndike did an experiment with the hungry cat. He put it in a cage and put a food in front of the cat. Cat made many attempts to get the food, and during these efforts, cat found the way to go outside the cage. In his experiment, hungry cat continued his struggle because he has hope of food. Here food is a reinforcement for him which impel him to continue his struggle. So the cat found the way to come outside the cage. Now I describe the educational implication of this method. Now I describe the educational implication of this law. Reward play a vital role in the law of affect. Children hope that with hardworking and effective learning, they can get better position in life. Furthermore, they show better result in learning because they want to become popular among their classmates and their teachers. They want that their teachers and parents feel good for them. In this regard, rewards are considered important, especially for learning of dull students. These students involved in learning because of getting rewards. At earlier stage, rewards are important for effective learning. However, it is important that these rewards should be used at proper time. When teacher encourages student, it is also a reward. Now I describe the punishment. In traditional learning, punishment was considered important, and it was said that children can learn effectively with punishment only. But now teachers in this system, teacher has central position and he or she ignore the natural and psychological position of child. But nowadays child has central position. In our educational institutions, there is ban on punishment. Punishment has some bad effects on child and the learning of child. For example, it destroys the personality of child. It creates inferiority complex and fear among children. It also decreases the interest of children in learning. So, teachers should focus on the encouragement of children so that children acquire better, permanent and effective learning. Thank you, viewers.